So God had already positioned him. Now, you may be frustrated. You may feel stuck. You may feel like your gifts aren't being used. But if God's positioned you, it's just a matter of time before you see the manifestation of that spiritual reality. In the Spirit, God's made his selection. In the Spirit, God's marked you with favor. In the Spirit, God has already positioned you right where you need to be. It's just a matter of time now until you step into the fullness of what God has assigned to you. So number one, the anointing brings position. Number two, the anointing brings power. Here in 2 Kings chapter 2, Elijah is going to be taken to heaven, and Elisha, his successor, watches him go. Look at verse 1 here. When the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were traveling from Gilgal. And Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has told me to go to Bethel." But Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went down together to Bethel. So here we see that Elisha clings to Elijah, despite the instruction. In other words, leave me alone, let me be, I'm going to go on my way. He says, no, as surely as the Lord lives. In other words, you're not convincing me. Elisha was focused. Elisha knew the assignment. Elisha kept his servant's heart. Even when there was a little bit of contention, it appears, between him and his mentor. That contention precedes the transfer of the mantle. Watch this now in verse 3. The group of prophets from Bethel came to Elisha and asked him, "Did you know that the Lord is going to take your master away from you today?" "Of course I know," Elisha answered, "but be quiet about it." Now I suspect, and this is just my speculation here, I suspect that Elisha was protecting that mantle. He wanted to make sure that it wasn't another that saw his mentor go, but that he was the one to see his mentor go and therefore receive the mantle. But again, and to be clear, that's just my speculation. Verse 4, then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has told me to go to Jericho." But Elisha replied again, "As surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went on together to Jericho. Then the group of prophets from Jericho came to Elisha and asked him, "Did you know that the Lord is going to take your master away from you today?" "Of course I know," Elisha answered, "but be quiet about it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has told me to go to the Jordan River." But again Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went on together. You know, some people, they won't stay even if you beg them to stay. These are the kind of people who walk in the anointing. They don't go even when others tell them to leave. They're persistent, they're bold, they're focused. They already have in their heart what they want, and they're going to go after what God has for them. 50 men from the group of prophets also went and watched from a distance as Elijah and Elisha stopped beside the Jordan River. Then Elijah folded his cloak together and struck the water with it. The river divided, and the two of them went across on dry ground. When they came to the other side, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I am taken away?" So here we see now that persistence is rewarded. Notice that Elisha did not ask, Elijah